compensation for your services, any damage to your car. This makes us square.
The Mafia 1 remake is set to arrive soon. Initial trailers and gameplay videos showed us that we weren't at a simple remaster or brush-up of the 2002 original. Instead, Hangar has gone for a complete, ground-up remake of the game based on the Mafia 3 engine with an updated feature set. Mafia 1 Definitive Edition looks to be one of the most transformative remasters we've seen this generation. Mafia 1 Definitive Edition may have had its roots in the early 6th generation, but technologically speaking, we're looking at a game that very much holds its own against its 8th gen peers. Let's take a deep dive into the game's core tech and find out. Engine overview. Mafia Definitive Edition is built on Hangar 13's Mafia 3 engine as mentioned before. We're looking at a shot-for-shot remake of the original game, meaning that the original 2002 assets are nowhere to be found. The Mafia 3 engine utilizes a deferred renderer, allowing for a large number of dynamic light sources at a given time. Dynamic lighting is used to great effect here with neon signs, car headlights, and street lamps all adding considerably to the game's atmosphere. Mafia Definitive Edition uses a physically based material rendering pipeline, a step forward from Hangar 13's work in Mafia 3. We're at the tail end of the 8th generation, and at this point art teams are well versed with PBR workflows, meaning that superlative material rendering quality is almost something of a norm. Materials in Mafia Definitive Edition are noticeably better than Mafia 3, with PBR used consistently across all textures in the environment. Metallic surfaces on cars are the real highlight here. Back in 2002, the original Mafia delivered great car models for the era, a step up from GTA 3, and nearly on par with racers of the time. We're looking at a similar situation here, albeit 2 generations down the line. Hangar 13's invested a considerable amount of the on-screen polygon budget on exquisitely crafted 1930s vehicles. You'll want to move the camera around to get a close-up look. Character model comparison. Nowhere is the 2-generation gap between Mafia Definitive Edition and 2002's original more evident than in terms of character rendering. Polygon counts have increased exponentially over the past 2 decades, with more capable console GPUs able to render substantially more complex character models with minimal overhead. Characters in the 2002 original were built out of roughly 1,500 to 2,000 polygons, in line with other open-world 6th-gen titles like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. At these poly counts, complex character expressions, hair, and facial features are difficult to capture effectively. While the original Mafia was considered a cinematic experience back in the day, the simplistic models make for difficult viewing in 2020. Mafia Definitive Edition ramps polygon counts up by 20 or more. Main character assets are rendered with 40,000 or more polygons, enough room to accurately convey detail and emotion even in close-up shots. Character faces hold up against the best of the 8th gen. Character texture quality sees a major boost in fidelity too. We would have expected higher quality texture assets even if Hangar 13 didn't go for an all-in remake. We're looking at a roughly 200 times increase in memory allocation between the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 4. Character texture detail is great, with 2K and 4K texture assets being used for both faces and skin, as well as on clothing. Physically based rendering comes into play here. Suits and other cloth material assets are a good match for their real-life counterparts.
Sorry for the delay, but I didn't want anybody seeing me, if you know what I mean.
What can I get you?
Just a coffee, thanks.
World comparison. 2003's Mafia was criticized for being a linear shooter in the guise of an open-world GTA-esque romp. Whether or not the City of Lost Heaven was used extensively for side quests and other activities, it remains one of the most interesting open-world environments to explore on 6th generation hardware. The density of buildings, pedestrians, and flourishes of individuality, together with an emphasis on period accuracy, made for an incredible experience for the time. Nearly 2 decades later, Hangar 13 is apparently looking to recreate that same sense of awe here in Mafia Definitive Edition's open-world environment. Hangar 13 has massively increased the level of detail, as well as the number of unique, incidental assets right across the board. The short draw distance of the original game, something that drew criticism from reviewers of the time, is a thing of the past here. What impressed us most though was the level of incidental detail in alleyways, side streets, and interiors. There are plenty of 8th generation games out there right now that boast a lower level of incidental detail. Volumetric lighting and fog have carried over from Mafia III and add much to Mafia Definitive Edition's visual makeup, especially in nighttime scenes. Nighttime lighting from signs and cars, together with the game's screen-based reflections, result in dense atmospherics. Apart from SSR, Mafia Definitive Edition appears to use a high-quality depth of field effect in cutscenes. This is, again, par for the course as far as the 8th gen is concerned. However, it's a step up from the original and an interesting move relative to Mafia 3, considering so many of the key story beats in that game were told via pre-rendered cinematics. Gameplay comparison. Lifting gameplay wholesale from previous generation titles is often not a great idea. Thankfully, Hangar 13 draws on the collective experience of nearly 2 decades of third-person gameplay designs since 2002. Mafia Definitive Edition doesn't just look like an 8th generation title, it plays like one too. In big part, this is down to a complete reworking of gunplay. The original Mafia had little in the way of a cover system. This wasn't too bad for PC gamers. Pinpoint mouse accuracy made shooting encounters passable on the platform. However, the lack of cover mechanics made it tough for PlayStation 2 and Xbox owners to get through gunplay segments, especially at a lower frame rate. Mafia Definitive Edition offers the kind of cover mechanics you'd expect in a modern third-person shooter, with easy one-button transitions into and out of cover. Together with the retooled ballistics and character physics, combat segments are far more visceral and compelling than in the original. Driving also plays a big role in Mafia games. Period-accurate car handling was a divisive addition to both the original Mafia and Mafia 2. While we can't speak to the actual driving experience, it appears as if Hangar 13 has upgraded car handling mechanics and physics. We don't expect the game's 1930s vehicles to zoom to 100 km per hour. However, better handling and a solid driving model should lead to a much improved experience over the original.
Help! We're being attacked! Help us, somebody, please!
Kill you. Mia, we have a problem.
Back off!
You're some kind of dish, ain't ya?
Get away from me!
Just like you's wasted on that greaser.
I'll kill you, you bastard!
Oh! I can't. See, circle.
Future editions. Considering Mafia Definitive Edition's release date, we wouldn't be doing the game justice without talking about future possibilities on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Hangar 13 has yet to officially confirm anything about 9th gen development efforts for the Mafia franchise. However, with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X just months away, we will almost certainly see 9th gen enhancements make their way over to Mafia Definitive Edition. There are 2 obvious improvements we see here: frame rate and ray tracing effects. Considering the game's visual complexity, we expect Mafia Definitive Edition to run at 30 FPS on the 8th gen consoles, a match for Mafia 3. However, the enhanced capabilities of the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X mean that a 4K 60 FPS mode is likely viable, though with possible cutbacks to effects or with dynamic resolution scaling. The second area of opportunity is in terms of ray-traced reflections. Mafia Definitive Edition makes extensive use of SSR, with reflections on puddles, cars, and other surfaces. The dense urban environment would be a great fit for ray-traced reflections. Ray-traced reflections would mean a great visual improvement to the game's already stellar cars. Conclusion. Mafia Definitive Edition is a strange thing. It's a remake of a 6th generation game releasing on 8th generation consoles right at the dawn of the 9th gen. From what we've seen, Hangar 13's done an incredible job of remaking the entire Mafia experience from scratch from 8th gen machines, building on the credible tech they first showcased in Mafia 3. The question now, though, is how well will Mafia Definitive Edition scale on 2021's new platforms? And where does the franchise go from here? And that wraps it up. If you like what we are doing, please consider subscribing to our channel, and don't forget to switch on the bell notification icon. That way you will never miss out on any of our videos.